This day in sports history. A member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's July 5th, and this is a pretty big day of the year for Black sports history over the past century, so let's talk about it. Let's start in 1947, when on this day, Cleveland's Larry Doby became the first black baseball player in the American League and the second black player in the major leagues. This is a little less than 3 months after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in the majors on April 15th, and Doby's Indians were playing in Chicago against the White Sox in Comiskey Park. His debut was met with little fanfare or public interest compared with Robinson. He came on in the 7th inning of this game as a pinch hitter for the Cleveland Indians, batting for pitcher Brian Stevens, and received a good reception by the 18,000 fans in attendance that day. This was also not a long-planned, methodical journey to slowly integrate the American League like Jackie had been through with Brooklyn. Now, remember, Robinson had been brought into the Dodgers organization in '46 and then sent to the minor league team in Montreal for a year before being brought up to the Brooklyn club. Instead, Cleveland owner Bill Veeck signed Doby from the Newark Eagles of the Negro League on the 4th. Doby had taken a train from Newark to Chicago, and then Veeck drove him to Comiskey. Doby's introduction to his teammates was a bit cold. Veeck had kept quiet about any dealings to bring Doby to the team. Doby said that only a few teammates actually shook his hand, and the ones who did gave him the dead fish handshake. He was given a jersey, but player-manager Lou Boudreau had a tough time finding a place in the lineup for him. Doby played second and short with the Eagles, so instead Doby found himself pinch hitting in the 7th. He struck out in his first plate appearance, and the White Sox won 6-5. He only made 33 plate appearances in 1947, but he became a regular in the Indians lineup in 1948. He led the American League in homers twice, and his best season statistically was 1954, when his 32 homers led the American League, as did his 126 RBI. He finished second in MVP voting that year. And if you remember back to the June 30th edition of This Dish, you'll remember that Doby became the second black manager in the majors when he made his managerial debut in the same park he did as a player, Comiskey, and he was hired by the same man, Bill Veeck, to take over the Chicago White Sox. On this day in 1975, Arthur Ashe became the first black man to win at Wimbledon, and I do want to make that distinction. Althea Gibson had been the first black tennis player to win at Wimbledon in 1957, which I'll talk about in tomorrow's episode. But here on this day, Ashe was on center court with Jimmy Connors. The 22-year-old Connors was the defending champ, the number 1 seed, and the world's number 1 player. He had been smashing his way to wins in the previous 18 months. His 1974 record of 99 wins and just 4 losses was indicative of his dominance at this point in his career. There was also bad blood between these two players. I won't go too deep into it here, but 2 days before the start of Wimbledon in '75, Connors had sued the ATP, which Ashe was president of, for $10 million that stemmed from Connors being barred from the '74 French Open. So, back to the match that happened on this day. Ashe was a tour veteran who had won before and had won major tournaments before. He won the U.S. Open back in 1968 and the Aussie Open in 1970. But Ashe was 9 years older, he had never beaten Connors, and at this point in his career didn't seem like a match for Connors' power game. Those in the media, such as Bud Collins, feared that Ashe would just get embarrassed and run off center court in straight sets. Now, Ashe typically played a power game, but as he watched the late sets of Connors' semifinal match with Roscoe Tanner, he realized that he just couldn't match what Connors was doing on the court. So, he decided to change up his game, and not just a little bit, but a lot. He borrowed from Muhammad Ali's rope-a-dope strategy. Don't go toe-to-toe with the other guy. Absorb what the other guy throws at you, let him tire out, and then go in for the kill. Ashe switched from a power player, which he figured Connors would feast off of, to a dink-and-dunk game, slower serves out wide, rather than hit it hard down the tee. He hit low shots, worked Connors side to side, and he hit precise shots that left Connors punchless. Ashe went up 2-0 in the match, winning the first 2 sets 1-1. Connors won the third and looked like he might be able to mount a comeback up a break in the fourth, but Ashe regained control and then, just like Ali against Foreman with the rope-a-dope strategy, powered his way to the finish, winning 6-4 in the fourth to close it out. It was as big an upset in a major final in tennis as there ever was. It was Ashe's last singles title he ever won, becoming the first black man to win at Wimbledon. Connors dropped his lawsuit against the ATP, and Ashe a short time after. On this day in 1925, Harry Jackson defeated John Shippen to win the first ever UGA tournament. Hang on a second, I hear you. Who are these guys, and what's the UGA? Does that have anything to do with the University of Georgia and a bulldog? Well, it does not. The UGA is the United Golfers Association, and it formed back in 1925. It started out as the U.S. Colored Golf Association as a way for black golf professionals to get together and play tournaments, since they were excluded from USGA and PGA events. On this day 99 years ago, it was the first round of The National, played at Shady Rest Golf Club in Westfield, New Jersey. Jackson outdueled Shippen to win by 3 shots, in what became known later as the Black Golfers Major. From there, the UGA grew. They added weekly pro tournaments to the schedule. They added men's and women's amateur events to the schedule as well. And the events were open to everybody, even to white golfers who showed up to play. Former UGA President Norris Horton was quoted once saying, "We knew what it was like to be excluded, and we didn't want to do that to anybody else. So anybody who showed up, white, black, male, female, if you qualified and you paid the entry fee, you were welcome to play." There was a huge difference in prize money, though. Jackson won $25 for his win in this tournament. In the 50s, first place would only net about $500 compared to several thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on the PGA Tour. And by the way, the UGA is still active today with the mission to prepare young black golfers to achieve success on the many professional tours. And you can check them out at unitedgolfersassociation.org. And time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? The Pentagon has 5 sides because it was originally going to be built on a 5-sided piece of land. The site shape changed. The building design did not. That's all for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.